welcome. So good to see you. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to Money in the Morning, aka Financial Consciousness Training, aka Economic Elevation. This is where I teach you the art of economic elevation every day by encouraging you to become financially conscious. Because a lot of people want money, but they don't understand how to get it. They don't understand how money works. They don't understand what it means to be aware of money. And like I always say, if you can't see the money, you'll never be the money. So I want you to have the money. And so that's what we talk about every morning. So just a reminder, in case you're new, this is what we do. And the goal is to do this every single day, 7 days a week, because we are forming habits. Habit formation is a critically important part of any wealth building process. If you have the right habits, then you can win. And I really just want us to win. So good morning, AC Salam. I see you in there. Who else is in here? I see Mandla and Kosi. Akila, good morning. James Keller, good morning. Al Ree, April Austin, I see you. Esther Matthews, Chris, Kamisha, Alice Jackson, Jay Kelly, Jackie, Frederick, Sharonda Bay, good to see you. Larry Graham, Khaleesi, Game of Thrones. I watched House of the Dragon last night, which is a Game of Thrones show, which is really, really good. So let me know, give me a quick yes if you can hear me. Let me know you can hear me okay. I want to make sure my audio is good. I wanted to jump us right into the conversation today because I saw, in case you guys don't know, again, some people are new. So if it seems like I'm repetitive, it's because I'm deliberately repetitive, number one, because that's how you form new habits. But then also, I can be repetitive because sometimes people come in for the first time and they haven't seen all the amazing stuff that we've all been doing together for the last 10 years. Some of y'all been hanging out with me for 15 years or so. I have to kind of re-up sometimes. So I hope that's okay. But then also what I found is that repetition is one of the keys to success. Well, repetition is kind of the way you really change culture. A lot of the things that we are trained to do, the things that we're trained to believe, whether it's about money or life or anything else, comes from just repetition. That's it. And so ultimately, when you're talking about who you are and how your brain is made up, I really want you to become aware of the subconscious mind. My wife is a therapist. She's an expert on the subconscious mind. So talking to her really helped me understand that the biggest challenge that we have as Black people when it comes to wealth is related to the programming of our subconscious mind. Our mind has been programmed to see the world in a certain way and to see money in a certain way. And so you have to change the way you see money. If you don't if you don't change the way you see money, then you are going to pretty much get whatever they want you to have. You're going to get whatever the people before you had, your parents, your grandparents, stuff like that. You're going to take the generational curses and embrace them, as opposed to deciding conscious discernment of which of these generational traditions that you're going to hold on to and which ones you're just going to throw out with the garbage, because some of the stuff is garbage and I don't want you inheriting garbage, nor do I want you passing financial STDs down to your children. If you don't know what a financial STD is, it's all in my book, Financial Lovemaking, actually. If you go to drboycebooks.com, the book is there. I wrote this book when I was on the faculty of Syracuse, and I wrote Financial Lovemaking because I was really fascinated when I was on the faculty there by how many people ruin their lives when it comes to money. Just how many bad decisions are made when it comes to money, how many bad outcomes in relationships happen because of money. How many times I remember one time, I was about 31 years old, and I saw this guy he was a white dude, and he went to college with me, but I didn't know him in college. We went to the same school, we were in the same business school at the same time, but we did not know each other. And so I saw him, though. It was kind of cool. Like, you see somebody that's an alum of the same school that you went to, and you're like, hey, how you been? How's your life? How you doing? And I'll never forget. This guy was, oh gosh, I had something in my teeth. Sorry. This guy was so depressed. I never forget how sad he was. And I was sad by seeing how sad he was, and I said, so it's he said, man, things haven't gone well. And I was like, really? Okay. So what's going on? And he proceeded to tell me that he just got a divorce. And he said that, he kind of lost everything in the divorce. And he was devastated. He was depressed. Like, I really, when I think about this guy, I talked to him, it was over 20 years ago when I talked to him, but he almost sounded like suicidal. Like, he was that sad. And a lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of people don't talk about how just traumatized people can be when, if you're married or something, and your spouse decides that they want to put you out, or you can't live with your kids anymore. It kind of takes away your sense of purpose. And a lot of times when a person loses their sense of purpose or their reason for being, then part of you is just kind of dead. It's very easy to get to the point where you just say, look, I might as well just go ahead and end it, right? And I don't want to see that happen to anybody, right? I think that that's really sad to see. And so anyway, so let me finish this discussion here on this point. So the poor guy, is telling me about what happened to him, and how bad the divorce was, and how he felt like he got taken to the cleaners in the divorce and stuff like that. And as I was listening to him, I remember kind of thinking about the fact that he seemed to have sort of made a really interesting, I'm not going to say an error in his relationship. I'm going to say he made a common decision that a lot of people make, where they come in and they have this belief that relationships are solely based on this thing called love. Decision that all you have, that if you got love, all the love is all you need. And I'm not going to say that love is not important, but I kind of feel like love is nice, but love is a little bit better when love is accompanied by this thing called common sense. And typically those two do not go hand in hand. Typically when love is in the building, common sense goes out the window. And because there's something weird that happens. And I was so fascinated with relationships and love and how people act so crazy when they fall in love. Give me a yes. Who's ever been crazy in love, or ever looked back and didn't understand what you did or why, or look back and said, what was I thinking? Like, why did I trust that person? Or why did I let that person have the keys to my car? And, why, what was going on? And so I was going through that myself. I was 20, about maybe late 20s. I started to think back on that and say, gosh, why does love turn me into a crackhead? Like, what is going on here? Like, why do my personality changes? This is nuts. And so long story short, here's what, I concluded is that basically love is it's God's little trick, honestly, where your brain gets filled up with all these really powerful hormones and chemicals that cause you to the dopamine rush is so strong that you just aren't rational. You're not logical. You're just literally, it's literally like somebody injecting a drug in your veins every single day for at least the first 6 to 9 months, and sometimes longer. The first 6 months is really powerful. I remember a specific chemical called phenylethylamine. Phenylethylamine, I haven't seen it in too many other contexts, but I think it's related to dopamine. I got to go really do some research on it. And literally they just said that you're just not rational. You're not logical. They even said, if you end a relationship and then you start another one and then you say, oh, we should get married because, we love you. They said, don't do that because you're just reacting because the first kiss was so great, or the sex is good, or you're just excited about this new person, and you're going to make a bad decision. So long story short, when you talk about this mix between love and money, it becomes a very dangerous mix, almost like mixing prescription drugs and alcohol. When you're mixing the two, you got to do it really carefully. And because if you do it wrong, it can be really bad. So in light of maybe in honor of that poor guy who was financially devastated after his divorce, I thought that I would share something else that I saw this morning that got me thinking. So I put this, and I put the post up on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, and I need y'all to follow me at Dr. Boyce Finance because I had a big Instagram page with 600,000 people, and Mark Zuckerberg's people just decided to take it down. I have no idea. It made me sad, but that's life. You just rebuild and you keep on moving. But in case you're wondering where I'm at on Instagram, it's Dr. Boyce Finance. And to prepare for next time they take me down, which it's going to happen. It always does. I have another backup page called Dr. Boyce Money. So if you go to Dr. Boyce Money and Dr. Boyce Finance, you can follow me there. And on this post, there's basically a guy kind of warning other men. He says, newsflash, you'll never be the man in a house that is owned by a woman. You're just there for the bills. And in the post, which again, it's on my Instagram, it pictures this guy. He's sitting there. For some reason, he has no shirt on, and he has his suitcases next to him, and he's sitting outside with no shirt, looking sad and reflective, like something happened, and he got put out or something, and he's sad and devastated about his relationship. And so I thought about this and I said, okay, so this to me is, and I don't like stuff that contributes to what I call the gender wars. The gender wars are pretty intense right now in some segments of the community. You have a lot of hurt people that hurt people by saying hurtful things about other people. So you got men who just complain. They get on the internet and they complain about women all day, and then you got women who complain about men all day. And I'm not a person that believes you solve a problem by complaining about it. Again, remember, I'm a mathematician, and I've never run into a mathematics problem that you ever solve by complaining or whining about it, or getting angry at the chalkboard because the problem was too hard. I just come from a space where you solve the problem, right? So I don't understand the complaining culture, but so I say that we embrace the problem solving culture. So here's what I'm saying. I'm going to break this down. This is our financial consciousness exercise for today. So there's the one side where the guy's saying, if you're there just paying the bills and she owns the house, you're not the man of the house. You're just there to pay the bills. Okay, I hear that, right? You feel like you're an accessory. You're not really getting much benefit from your contribution. Okay, that's fine. But then the other side of that I've seen is examples where a woman was in a relationship with a man for a very long time, made significant contributions to the man, and did not get financial benefit from that, did not get ownership or control of anything during that time. I remember when I was a kid, I had a friend whose mother wanted to take her own life, and because and she was one of those interesting. I used to be really fascinated when I would go visit my white friends, because their parents they were so open about stuff. They would just tell you stuff that you don't tell kids. That in my house, my parents didn't tell me grown folks' business. They just didn't do that. But this lady she told us all her business. And I was like 16 or 17 thinking, I don't really need to know all the problems of a 38-year-old. Who does that? But maybe that's just me. Maybe that was just my family. Like my parents, they never argued in front of us or anything, right? And I'm glad that they didn't, because I didn't want to hear about the problems of 35 and 40-year-olds when I was a teenager. So just keep that in mind. Some of y'all be fighting in front of the kids and all that. Don't do that. It's hard enough to be a kid. But this lady would tell me all her business. And one thing that I remember her telling me was that her husband, she met her husband in college. He was going to be a dentist. And because he was going to be a dentist, she felt like that was the reason why she didn't have to finish school. This is back in the day where you went to college just to get a man, right? Or some women did, not all women. A lot of black women didn't do that, but a lot, that happens, right? So she marries this guy, and they live happily ever after for about 22 years. And they live the exact life she thought they were going to live. They get a big house. They live in the nice suburb. They have boats and they take trips and they live in the fine life. But then when they get in their 40s, I guess he got restless and he starts to have an affair with his 23-year-old assistant secretary or something. And eventually he leaves with this lady and decides he wants to be with the young girl. And so he trades in the 40 for 220s, I guess. I don't know. And anyway, so eventually what happens is that she says, I was stuck. I was paying, or he was paying all these bills. Our kids were in private school. The mortgage was sky high. She said my resume was dusty because I hadn't worked in 20 years. I didn't know how to make money. And so she said that she was so devastated that that's what led her to feel like she had to take her own life. And that story never left me. It always stuck with me. And it was my first introduction to how various financial and career decisions can really put us in a tough spot. And it's not so much that she made a bad choice. Because in my view, she made the choice to trust the person she loved. I don't think that's a terrible choice. I don't think that makes you a stupid person. I don't think that that's bad. I just think that sometimes things change, right? And in finance, and actually, before I move on, I want to ask everybody: can y'all hear me? Give me a yes if you can hear me, because I see a couple of you are mentioning audio challenges. Are y'all able to hear me? Okay, I see a lot of yeses. James, Ferran, Gabe. Okay, all right. So thank you for saying yeah. For those who can't hear as well as you'd like, maybe hit the reset button or turn your volume up or reboot or something like that, or maybe it's your Wi-Fi. I apologize. I wish I could come in your living room and talk to you directly, but I can't. So I just want to double check that. Okay, so in finance, they have this whole theory, this whole area, this whole field of research that some academics dedicate their lives to, called optimal contracting. And optimal contracting is related to another area called moral hazard. And basically what moral hazard represents, some of you have heard me talk about this. If you've been hanging out with me long enough, you've heard it, but it's okay. It's okay to rehash old concepts sometimes so we can really understand them. A moral hazard basically is the risk that things are going to change. That's it. It's the risk that the shift in your power dynamic is going to occur, and that's going to change people's behavior. Like, for example, the example of the moral hazard problem that I bring up in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, is I talk about when you loan money to somebody. So give me a yes if you understand. I bring this example up because a lot of us have gone through this. Let me know if you've ever noticed that when somebody wants to borrow money from you, that broke ass cousin who's always got a financial problem, when they come to you and ask you for money, they're always very polite. They're always, just, contrite. They're willing to concede anything. Yeah, because, I'm just having a hard time and I could just, and I just, this happened and that happened. And I promise I'm going to get paid on Thursday. And as soon as I get paid, I'm going to find out where you at. Okay, what's your number? All right, which number you use? Okay, what time? Where you going to be at 2:00? Okay, I'm going to come to your house. No, you don't have to come to, no, I want to come to you. I want to give you the money personally. And also, I promise you, I'm going to pay you as soon as I get, in fact, when I get my check, I'm going to walk over to the check cashing place and I'm going to get the money and I'm going to bring it right to your house. I'm going to walk to your house and because I know where you at. I know where I'm going to give it to you at work. I'm not going to wait till you get home. I'm going to give it to you. You know what I mean? Like they're overcompensating in terms of being really, 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 really helpful and kind and loving and whatever, right? And then when they're waiting for you to decide if you're going to give them the money, they pick up the phone on the first ring, right? I've gone through this. I go through this all the time. Take it from me as a guy who always has people asking me for money. I've noticed how nice people are when they want something from me. It's kind of an amazing thing. Well, then you loan them the money, and as you all know, we know that's when things start to change. That's when the cousin is not picking up the phone on the first ring anymore. They're not even answering text messages, and they might take 3 days to answer a text, and then say, "Oh, I was busy." I'm like, "You're too busy to look at your phone. You did not, because it takes a second. I can look at my phone right now and see a text message and respond. Like it don't take that long to respond to it. It don't take 72 hours to respond to a text." Unless you don't want to talk to the person that's texting you, right? And then or then finally you get them on the phone and then they got an attitude like what you want, like why are you bothering me? And then they give you excuses, and when you don't accept the excuses, when you say, hey, look, we made an agreement. You told me you were going to pay me Tuesday. You were going to come to my job. You were going to deliver the money in cash to my desk, and that didn't happen. Like what's going on? And what you don't really realize is that typically when people are always having financial problems, when you loan money to somebody who's always got a financial problem, you're pretty much making a bad loan. That's what you're doing. When you loan money to people who've always got an issue, and if you're somehow deluded into believing that they have all this string of issues because they just have all this bad luck that no one else seems to have, that's you're kind of lying to yourself. Like a lot of times we want to believe that we don't believe, oh, if we just give Pookie a chance, things will turn around for him, and somebody just gave him an opportunity, or if this hadn't happened to him. And the reality is that there's a pattern established. There's a culture around this person, like a little dark cloud they carry around them deliberately that shapes how they view the world, how they make decisions. So when you make that loan to that person who's always got those financial problems, you're making a bad loan. They have a bad credit score, so you're really making a risky investment to begin with, right? But maybe we don't know that because we want to believe in the best in people and see potential in people. So you're hoping that if you loan Pookie this $400, this will be that one little opportunity he's going to get that's going to make everything better. So anyway, but the thing I want to point out to you is with moral hazard, what they talk about is how Pookie's attitude changes once he has your money. Like his perspective, his incentives, his everything shifts once he's got the power and you don't. Possession is 9/10 of the law. He got your money. He doesn't really need to answer the phone on the first ring. He doesn't have to be nice to you. He doesn't need to do anything for you because now he's got your money. And again, because he's a bad decision maker to begin with, he doesn't even process the fact that now that he's messed up his relationship with you, you're never going to loan him money again, because people who make those consistent mistakes are not very financially conscious. Conscious people see the long view. They see the long-term implications of their behavior, whereas Pookie may not see that. Pookie might be thinking about his next hit. He might be thinking about the moment, right? He's into instant gratification. Do you understand? So moral hazard is connected to that. So with that said, moral hazard is a big problem in finance. This does not just happen with you and your cousin Pookie. This happens with banks. There's whole research papers written about how banks loan money to, for example, third world countries. They loaned a lot of money to Latin American countries before they had what they called the peso problem, and I won't go into that. But they loaned all this money to these Latin American banks, and basically, when the banks had the money and then they had some financial problems, the moral hazard issue came up. The banks are like, well, we got your money, so you either have to take 5 cents on the dollar on your bonds, or you'll get nothing. If you don't take what we give you, then you'll have nothing. And so suddenly the person that was powerless before is in a position of power. And this happens also in marriage. Marriage, I don't care what anybody says, marriage and even relationships in general are so much deeper than just romantic love. They're so much deeper than just, I think she's pretty, I want to lay down with you, or I want to live in the same house with you, I want to have kids with you. And there's so many other dynamics that apply. I mean, marriage itself is a legal contract. That's what that is. It's a business deal for the most part. And there's rational reasons why that contract exists. That contract exists largely because of the moral hazard issue. It exists because if I'm married to you and we're tied together financially, then you have to think twice before you just pop up and walk out in the middle of a fight. Right? It's much, much harder to do. And for some people, it's a religious covenant. I believe in that, actually. I think I'm not even religious, but I personally think when two people get married and they really believe they're making a promise to God, I found that couples like that stay together longer because they're not marrying a human being. They're marrying an idea. They're marrying a commitment. They're married to a higher power, a higher ideal. And the reality is that human beings will let you down. Human beings will come up short. Human beings are going to make mistakes. So I told my wife, I said, I didn't marry you. I married the commitment to being married to you. Like, I'm married to this idea, or meaning that I made a commitment. I made a promise to something bigger than just you. So when you come up short or you get on my nerves, I'm not really looking at your behavior to determine how committed I am to the promise that I made. I'm looking at the promise I made, and whether you say it's God, the universe, or something else. I told you I don't even go to church, so don't I ain't nobody's pastor, nothing. I'm completely unqualified for that. But I do believe in commitment. Where I come from, when you make a promise, you stick with it. That's it. And so I just told her, so there's nothing you can really do that would make me divorce you. If we ever get a divorce, it's going to have to be your choice. It's not going to be mine, because I don't come from that space. And I come from a daddy who's been married to my mama for 50 years. And that meant that he had to really endure ups and downs with a very flawed person. And she had to endure ups and downs with a very flawed person, because they were just married to a philosophy, a principle. It was a principle-based marriage. Do you understand? That does not exist very often. A lot of people stay married as long as the person doesn't upset them, disappoint them, let them down, or whatever. I'm not making fun of people that are divorced. So a lot of you are divorced. I know, I'm not. I promise you, I'm not making fun of that at all, or criticizing. I'm just saying that that's just it's a mindset, right? So anyway, so studies tend to show that people that are more married to some sort of bigger idea, an idea that's bigger than a person, that's not contingent on another person's behavior, those marriages tend to last longer, because then when the person messes up or they come up short, they say, well, you know what? I'm married to, I made a commitment to God. I'm married to the church and to God. I'm not really married to you, right? So anyway, that's just a little thing I've observed. Again, take it with a grain of salt. If it sounds like BS, then throw it out, please. All right. So here's the other thing too. The other thing about marriage is that it is a legal contract, and it does provide various financial incentives, carrots and sticks, to basically make it much harder for you to just walk out the door and dump each other. It's similar to the relationship between the United States and China. I would argue that the reason that the United States and China have not decided to just go to war with each other and start launching missiles at each other is because they are so deeply connected financially. They are financially married. We are so locked in together economically that a war between China and the United States would devastate both economies. It would hurt them more than it hurts us, but it would still hurt us too, because we're greedy as hell. America is a capitalist society, and we kind of worship money in this country. It's unfortunate. I don't agree with it. That's not my style at all, but that's kind of what you're dealing with. So that marriage, it has some uses. It kind of has some logic behind it, and it's not crazy. Now, here's the thing, though. not everybody wants to get married. Or why? Well, because, number one, like the poor guy I saw who was so depressed, I thought he was going to take his own life. Maybe the other person doesn't do what they're supposed to do, and there's lots of pain that comes with people disappointing you in a relationship. Maybe it's because you just don't, the whole commitment thing isn't your thing. Maybe you just feel like, look, hey, I can be committed to you, but that doesn't mean that we have to be committed in every single way, right? For whatever reason, there are people who just decide not to get married, and I think that's a perfectly logical decision. I'm not here to judge that or evaluate that. I'm not a Bible thumper or a person that's going to tell everybody what to do. But one thing I will say is that if you go into a situation where you have a long-term relationship and you don't secure your financial and legal rights, you are in an incredibly vulnerable situation. You're vulnerable. I've told you all that story about the guy who was in his 50s. He was an old player. I'm in my 50s. So I guess I'd be an old player if I was out there playing. I ain't playing. I got my wife. But he was an old player. He had a young girlfriend, about 32 years old, and he forgot that he wasn't 32. Also, he thought that he believed this lie that people keep telling, that age ain't nothing but a number. Well, if age ain't nothing but a number, it's a very important number, because every time I try to get up, I watched the Olympic trials this weekend, and I saw Noah Lyles run 9.8 seconds in the 100-meter dash. And in my head, for a moment, I imagined myself as a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old running. I didn't run 9.8 seconds, but I can imagine myself sprinting. But then you try to do it, and then you pull a hamstring just thinking about it. Like, I literally would just think about running, and I would pull a hamstring. I didn't even have to get off the couch. I pulled a ham. How the hell are you gonna pull your hamstring while you're sitting on the couch? But anyway. So life has a way of reminding you that you're not a kid anymore, and but then sometimes we don't want to accept that. So he's 50 some years old. He's got the 32-year-old girlfriend, maybe 30, something like that. The girlfriend is the same age as his daughter, so as you might expect, the daughter ain't too happy with none of that. The daughter hates the girl, but she can't say nothing because she doesn't have any rights to tell her dad what to do. So her dad and this lady have this relationship, and it's a good relationship. Whatever reason, two grown people deciding to be together, ain't nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. So he treats her well, she treats him well. She lives with him, he pays all the bills, and then he just has a stroke. Suddenly, the universe reminds him that no, you're as much as you think that age is just a number, we're going to show you how important that number is. So he has a stroke, like a lot of black men in their 50s. The 50s are kind of that heart attack stroke age. So again, I just want to go. I had to acknowledge I'm 53. So part of the reason I come in here every day and do my absolute best with you guys is because I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be here. I mean, I've never been scared to die. I'm not scared to die. And the only thing I'm afraid of is living for nothing. If I was living for nothing, that's scarier than death. So death does not scare me, and it's a reality. But hopefully, I'll be with you for the next 80 years. I don't know. But anyway, so he has a stroke. And then he goes into a coma. And while he's in a coma, the girlfriend and his mother, who's living with the girlfriend, are scrambling to figure out how to pay the bills, because the problem was they secured no legal rights. They had no rights to go into the bank and get the money out. He had control of all the money. So they take the phone, they put the phone up to his face, they scan into the phone, and they're able to get into his bank account, and they pull the money out and just money to pay the bills. They weren't trying to rob him or do anything devious. They just did pretty much what they knew he would be doing if he were alive. Well, obviously that's illegal. And so, but nobody notices because he's in this coma. Well, then when he dies, though, that's when the state steps in. And when the state steps in, the state does not care what handshake agreements you made with other people while you were alive. They don't care how close your friendship was. They don't care how committed you were in your relationship. They're looking for paperwork. They're like, okay, but you're not married. Like, what legal rights do you have? She had no legal rights, none whatsoever, because everything was based on this false idea that all you need is love. They have plenty of love, but she cannot take a big bowl of love to the courtroom and say, Your Honor, here's my love bowl that shows how much this man cared about me, and this gave me the right to go in his bank account and take $30,000 out. That does not work. So all the legal rights, everything, all the assets, naturally, by virtue of the state, went to the daughter. The daughter is the one who hated the girlfriend, so the daughter finally gets all the power. Moral hazard, more things change, moral hazard. So moral hazard pops in The daughter gets all the money, and the daughter has all the power because now her daddy's in heaven, so her daddy doesn't need his assets anymore. So she's the sole beneficiary. So she goes in and just starts wreaking holy hell on everything. She goes in, she gets the girl evicted. She finds out that he took the money out of the account, and she goes to try to get her arrested. Right. So literally the problem is that when you have these relationships where you say, well, we don't really need a piece of paper. Oh, marriage is baby, oh, baby, marriage ain't nothing but a piece of paper, baby. Ain't nothing but a piece of paper. I don't need no piece of paper to tell me that I love you. Well, you need some kind of a piece of paper, maybe not a marriage certificate. Right? I'm not saying everybody needs to get married, but if you love each other, you should probably care about each other enough to secure to give each other security. Like you should, like, if I really care about you, like I told my daughter, I said, it's easy for me to care about you while I'm here, while I'm alive, because I can do things. I said, but what I want to do is I want to show you that I care about you from the grave. I want to protect you from the grave. So because my life is short, life is fleeting. I'm gonna be dead one day. We're all gonna die. So making plans for just possibilities, I think it should be a critical part of our thinking. That's an incredibly important part of economic consciousness, is to realize that the only constant in life is change. The only thing that's constant in your life is that things are going to change. Shout out to Olita Adams. Remember that song? Everything must change. You know that song? If you haven't heard it, it's one of the most beautiful songs ever. And I heard that song when I was 19, and I remember listening to it, and it made me cry because I thought about the fact that everything around me was going to change. I called my parents and I said, I just want you to know right now how much I love you. And then my dad's like, what's wrong with him? I said, I'm having a moment because I just heard this song. I'm like, oh my God, everything's going to change. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold. Right. And so everything must change. Everything's going to change. Everything about, like, right now, we're sitting together, we're talking. This is not going to be the state of the world forever. This is going to last about another 30 minutes until we all adjourn and go about our day. So everything must change. Everything will change. So a big important part of economic consciousness is is only giving a certain amount of energy to observing what's in front of you. You want to have mindfulness and understand what's in front of you, what's happening right now. That's mindfulness. That's a type of consciousness where I can be with you in the moment in a very meaningful and deep way. That's an important part of consciousness there. That's almost like a type of meditation. So mindfulness is very important. But then after you practice mindfulness of the situation that you're in, you have to also practice mindfulness of the fact that there is a big, vast unknown called the future that you're also going to have to find some way to plan and prepare for. So let me give you, in terms of practical, actionable information, let me give you some things you can do that will secure and protect your rights in the event that things change, which they will. And this goes beyond just being married. And again, it goes back to that post. That post triggered me. The thing that triggered these thoughts was that post, and I put it on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance, of the guy who says, if you're just there paying the bills and she owns the house, you're not the man of the house. I hear that. So let me kind of give you some remedies for that, so you can kind of understand ways to protect yourself if you're in a relationship. And if you love someone, then you will consider these things. And if they love you, they'll consider these things. If they won't consider doing these things, then I think that it's okay to question the love. Like, how much do you really love me if you don't have a plan for me? Hey, like, do you really love me if you're going to leave me just asked out in case something happens? You get out every time you get in that car, you might not ever come home. Do y'all understand how serious this is? My Uncle Charles, um, he died a tragic, horrible death, in my opinion. Let me tell you how horrible my Uncle Charles's death was. It was just like, literally, you talk about just God's irony. It's like, it was like, whoa, how did this happen? I get a text message from my father out of the blue in 2019 saying Uncle Charles was in a car wreck and he died. Now, again, my father is the military slash police commander, so he just kind of says it. He just gives you the, straight no chaser, right? Um, but then I find out the details. Let me tell you the details. Crazy. There's so many weird ironies here that I can't even remember them all. But so he and my aunt Janice had just bought a new house. And that was the day he died. was the day that they were going to move into their new house. He called, and also that day was their wedding anniversary. And also the day after was her birthday. So he calls his wife, where they're about to come home, move into the new house, go out to dinner for the wedding anniversary, and celebrate her birthday the next day. And he gets killed in a car crash on the way home. True story. I'm not making this up. In addition to that, the day that he gets killed was the birthday of his mother. She was already in heaven. We call her Mama. Mama, in case you don't know, Mama is Felicia, my grandmother. We named our panther in the Black Business School after my grandmother. That panther's name is Felicia. That I keep this panther with me. She's right here. She's right behind me. Every time you see me with that panther, just know that's me carrying my grandmother with me, because she's the first person that taught me about financial literacy and investing, about money and wealth. She wasn't very educated when it came to money, but she had those grandma principles, those sturdy principles of financial responsibility that really is all that you need. But anyway, I'll tell you more about my grandmother at some point. Some of y'all heard the story. The rest of you, I'll bring it up again. But literally, that I said, this is so crazy that this is the day that he dies. Like, just, I mean, this is one of the dirtiest tricks that God could play on anybody. It's his mother's birthday. His wife's birthday is the next day, their wedding anniversary, and they were literally packing that night to move to the new house. And I just, so these things happen. You got to prepare. But let me tell you about my Uncle Charles. I don't want to depress anybody, so let me tell you the good side of the story. Let me tell you this. A few years earlier, I had gone to Applebee's with my Uncle Charles, and we were sitting there in Applebee's, and this was 10 years earlier. I was probably in my mid-30s. I was on the faculty at Syracuse, and he was late 40s, almost 50. And he was asking me about financial stuff, right? And the reason he was asking me was because he was financially devastated. His credit score had was like in the toilet. He had just lost a bunch of money. I think something happened with a lawsuit or something, and he was really sad because he was starting all over again financially. And I remember us sitting in Applebee's, and it was maybe about 2006. And I was kind of trying to cheer him up. I was like, you can do this. You can come back. It's okay. You just keep trying. Blah, blah, blah. And I remember him saying, he said, yeah, but it's kind of hard to start over when you're almost 50 years old. And I just remember just kind of encouraging him and trying to, support him. So check this out. This is the part that made me so proud of him. So you fast forward, and neither one of us at that time knew that in 2019, 13 years later, that I was going to get a text message saying that he was dead. So, so this is what replayed in my head. So years later, my aunt tells me that my Uncle Charles, not only did he fix his world up financially, got the credit score up, they just bought their dream house, had plenty of money saved. He had, I think, 2 or 3 massive insurance policies. Like literally, like he got his own life insurance. He had insurance from his job, and when he was killed in the car wreck, he was, again, given that death is horribly unfortunate, but some deaths are worse than others. The one good side of it was that the truck that hit him was being driven by a guy who was working for another company that also had to write a big old check. Again, nobody's happy when someone dies, but hey, if I just happen to die in that situation, I want to get killed by a rich person or a rich company. And so lo and behold, he was able to leave a beautiful and really extraordinary economic legacy with his family because he was a Black man who did not give up. He was a Black man that loved his family enough to make a plan for them. He prepared. He thought about these things. And I said, I am so proud. When I went to his funeral and I spoke at the funeral, I was so proud of him. And it just, so to me, it's like, look, here's the thing about death. And I hope I don't sound weird talking about it in this way, but death is coming for everybody. We're all in this thing together. We're all floating on this big ship called Earth that's hurtling us through space at 100,000 miles an hour. And where we happen to have bumped into each other in this place and time. But we know what's going to happen. We know how this story ends. That none of us is going to get out of this alive. None of it. This movie will not end with any of us surviving the film. So to me, given that we know that death is going to occur, why don't we make a plan for that? Why don't we make a pact of immortality? That's what I would call it, an immortality pact. Except I'm not going to be like Jim Jones and tell everybody to go drink some poison Kool-Aid. That's not what I'm saying. I think that the immortality pact should be that we are all committed to make sure that we engage in optimal contracting. There's that term again I used earlier, optimal contracting, to ensure that we've got something in place to make sure that if something happens to us, when the Grim Reaper shows up at our doorstep, that the people that we love are going to be taken care of, that they're going to be in the same position that my Uncle Charles's family was in. So in the middle of all the sadness and devastation that they felt to lose him, I mean, it was a terrible way to die. They were at least able to know that they were financially secure and that the bills were paid for the next 2 or 3 generations. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I was very proud of him for that. So anyway, with that said, let's go back to the stuff about it's so funny. I didn't even plan to really bring up my Uncle Charles. It just kind of, again, this, y'all know how I do this, stream of consciousness. So actually, let's circle back. But so let's hit the reset button real quick. I want to remind y'all of a couple of things. Number one, a lot of you were asking about how to invest in the stock market. I told you guys I think everyone should invest in the stock market. If you want to join us tomorrow, I'm going to do a training on called how to invest in the stock market. I'm literally going to take you into E-Trade and Robinhood and show you exactly step by step how to buy shares of stock and talk you through, answer questions, all that stuff. And the materials are yours for life. If you want to get an invitation to that session, just make sure you're on the text list. If you're not on the text list, pull out your phone, text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. Text morning to 87948. Not only will you get an invitation to this free training, we do this every single day, 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. It's called Financial Consciousness / Economic Elevation. So you'll get an invitation here, but also I'll invite you to tomorrow's session. Is going to be tomorrow at noon. If you can't make it Tuesday at noon, that's okay, because the recording will be available for you afterward. Also, just another thing I want to mention too. We really support the voices of Black women. I don't know how people feel about that one way or the other, but I don't care. And so with the Black Business School, we have a platform called Fly Nubian Money, where every single day at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have a group of sisters that get together, smart Black women that talk about really important issues. And I think everyone should be listening to Black women. A lot of us were raised and loved by a Black woman, taught by a Black woman. So to me, I think this is very natural. This is very important. So if you're interested in participating, I hope you'll come in and support the ladies, right? Because the internet can be kind of a mean place. The internet's full of crazy people, terrible people who just are mean and disruptive. So I want to fight that energy with more energy, right? So that would mean that if you follow and come into the session and just make some positive comments, engage in the conversation, encourage the ladies, that will be really cool. My wife goes in there, Dr. Alicia Watkins. She provides her therapeutic background. Dr. Lene Javette comes in. She's a business specialist. There's lots of Aisha Verzi, who I think is in this class right now. She has a background that is also not just strong in terms of finances, but she's also got an international perspective, which can really help us understand various ways to kind of look at family values. Like I think Aisha's from Nigeria, her family is, and they have, I really admire the way the Nigerian people look at education and family. And I think as Black people in America, we can learn from that. I think we got to go to our roots. I don't believe in going to these systems and all these these other things that are out here. I don't think that's the solution. I think the solution is for us to go back to the basics. So anyway, if you want to follow the ladies and be notified when they do their show every single day at 1 p.m. Eastern, just text the word Queens to 87948. So pull out your phone, text Queens to 87948, and your support would just mean everything. And if you could actually consciously come in and make a comment and just join the discussion, like that really, really helps. And I want to encourage them, because I personally think that we should listen to smart Black women, because Lord knows there's a lot of weirdos online, and I want to hear from the smart people. Even if you're a weirdo too, just be a smart weirdo. Be a weirdo with some solutions, please. All right. So let me give you 5 things a person can do to protect their rights, even if you're not married. So if you are in a relationship and you're living with somebody and you want to make sure that you're good and they're good, here are a few things you can do. without having to get married that will secure your rights and make sure that if somebody gets sick or somebody dies, or also if you're helping to pay the bills, that you're going to get credit for that, right? Like I think that solution to that post I put on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Money, where the guy was complaining that, look, if you're there to pay the bills and the woman owns the house and you're not the man of the house, well, part of that solution is pretty easy. To me, if you are paying the bills and paying a big chunk of the mortgage, then I think you have a right to ask to be put on the deed. Like you can just go somewhere and sign a document and your name would be on the deed. You would have some property rights. And that only makes sense, right? That to me is a simple solution as opposed to the other solution that some people follow, which is just, I'm going to run to the internet and cry about it. Come on, man. You don't have to cry about it. Just fix it. That's what men do. That's what strong, smart black people do. And by the way, it's not text Queen to 87948. It's Queens with an S. Text Queens with an S to 87948. And also flynubianmoney.com. That's the URL for everything too. All right. So a few things you could do is, number one, there are things called cohabitation agreements. And that's basically an agreement that you can get with an attorney. You can go on Rocket Lawyer or something like that to set it up, where it pretty much defines your financial responsibilities and property rights. That can be important when you're living with somebody. I don't know if anybody else has ever done. How many of you have ever had a situation where you had a roommate that didn't pay their share of the rent and everything was in your name and then they moved out? And maybe I'm telling on myself, maybe I'm telling my story, but I've seen, how many of you have ever seen somebody go through this where you have everything in your name, you have a roommate, your roommate's supposed to take care of half the rent, they don't, then it messes up your credit because the landlord's looking for you, they're not looking for them. Well, sometimes it's, especially when you talk about the world of grown-ups where people live together, whatever, and cohabitate and do whatever they're going to do. It's important to consider having an agreement in place to ensure that everything is clear, that everyone knows what they're supposed to do financially and everybody knows what they actually own, so that if the relationship dissolves, you can say, that's mine according to the agreement. This is mine according to the agreement. I deserve half of this or a piece of that or whatever. I think and those are simple contracts you can do, again, either with a lawyer or even on a Rocket Lawyer or something. Also, there's something called joint tenancy, where you hold property jointly so that the ownership transfers to the surviving partner. So if you and I have joint tenancy on a property, that means that I can secure something that says that if you die, I'm not going to get evicted. I'm not going to end up homeless. And I think that that's important to consider. I've just seen cases where people even forget to take stuff out of their ex's name, or their ex-wife or ex-husband, and then they die because no one thinks they're going to die. Everyone thinks we're going to live forever. And then next thing you know, this ex that you hate is coming in and claiming ownership of all your stuff. Like, that's terrible. Like, why would you put your partner through that? There's also something called power of attorney. Now, with the power of attorney, you basically are signing a document that gives this other person the rights to make certain financial and medical decisions in the event that you cannot do that. I think that if you love each other, a good way to test the love is to say, look, hey, do you trust me enough to have power of attorney in the event that something happens to you or something goes wrong? If they don't, then maybe that warrants a further conversation. You can also list each other's beneficiaries on your insurance policies, retirement accounts, and bank accounts. If you go to your bank and you say, I need to put this person's name down as the person who can access my account in the event that I die, you can do that. And the thing about it is, the same thing is true for your brokerage accounts, all that stuff. And the reason that would be important to me is because, think about it like this. Go back to the example of the guy I told you about who's in his 50s, who had the young girlfriend, and he's paying all the bills and all the rent. Her biggest problem was, oh crap, he died on Thursday. The rent is due next Tuesday. How am I going to get money next Tuesday if he's not here? Or he went into the coma. I'm sure when the coma happened, that was probably when they first panicked. So in my view, I would argue that if you put someone down if they've got power of attorney and they're a beneficiary on your bank account and on your investment account, they can hop in and make adjustments in the event that something goes wrong, because things go wrong. That's life. Also, you got this thing, you've probably heard about this, called a will. And in your will, you can just make it real clear. You have to state. See, here's the thing. I'm just say it like this. How can I say this in a way that isn't me telling on myself or revealing too much or whatever? Because I am talking publicly, and I would never want something to be misconstrued. But there's a way that I show and I think a lot of people do this, especially men, but I think women too. One way that I've shown love, like real heavy love for a woman, I've only really been like heavy in love a couple times. Um, is I publicly declare that person in that relationship. Like I'll give you an example. Most of you, how many of you know about my wife? Give me a yes if you've heard me talk about my wife. How many of you have heard me talk about Dr. Alicia on numerous occasions? Anybody? Okay. One thing that you probably haven't heard is me talk about the person that I dated before my wife. Very nice lady, very nice lady. I don't even want to talk about her, but that was not. She was not Alicia. She was not going to be my wife. She's a nice lady though. But just because somebody's nice don't mean you got to marry them. You can only marry one. And that's intentional, right? To me, my way of showing that love is like, hey, I go out to the world and I announce to the whole world, I'm taken. So that means you slide. Don't be sliding my DMs. Don't be trying to get me up and caught up in nothing. I got a wife, and that protects me as a man. Right? And me announcing that I have a wife is something that draws a boundary, and women respect that. First thing they'll do is that if I meet, because I see y'all, sometimes you see me and sometimes people think you're kind of cute. You got money makes you cuter, and I can see it. And then the woman will say, "Oh, how's Dr. Alicia doing?" And that to me is just kind of like acknowledging, like, look, I heard you, I know you all about your wife, so I'm not here to, and I appreciate that, and that really makes things easy, right? So, and here's the thing. A lot of you don't. The only people who know this are people who've been following me for like more than a decade. Back in 2007, I don't know if y'all know this, but this was not the first time I was going to get married. I actually got engaged in 2007, and again, an amazing lady, wonderful lady, and would never say anything negative about her. We just didn't get married for personal reasons. And when I was going to marry her, I deliberately proposed to her on the Wendy Williams show. Did y'all know that? It was back when Wendy did the show in New York, and it was the biggest show in New York City. And I said, I love this woman so much that I need the whole world to know, not only that I love her, but that she is that I am taken. That this is, and Wendy's show with all these women, and at that time my stock was rising. I knew I was getting out there and whatever, and I was like, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to tell everybody how awesome this woman is and how much I'm happy to be married to her. So here's my point. I think that to me, these preparations, kind of designating people, putting things in writing on some level, is a form of love that shows, like, look, I'm declaring my love for you. I may not have to declare it through a marriage certificate. I'm not saying that that's for everybody. And look at the divorce rate. The divorce rate's incredibly high. Obviously, marriage ain't for everybody, but some sort of public declaration that is real, that is concrete, that will last and persist after you're gone. To me, that's really a great sign of love. And if I'm not ready to declare anything, that's very, very risky. And I think that should be consciously considered when evaluating, like, okay, how much are you really in this with me? So that, a cohabitation agreement, a joint tenancy agreement, power of attorney, beneficiary designations, putting somebody in your will, to me, is a way to celebrate the love that doesn't require you to necessarily have to go and do something that, like marriage, that you may not want to do. So I would just say to you, consider this, because I think that sometimes I've just seen so many tragedies where someone gets financially screwed because there were no preparations that were made in the relationship. And I just really think that love is not just a word. Love is not just a feeling. Love is a verb. Love is an action. It's a series of actions. If I love you, I'm going to love you. I want to love my wife every day by taking out the garbage and being there for her and the kids and doing what I'm supposed to do as a husband. It's not just me sitting back and doing nothing and saying, baby, I love you, right? I love you. Love is not a feeling. When you get in a serious relationship, love is an action. So maybe an action would be to put something in writing. So maybe instead of putting a ring on it, maybe you put a piece of paper on it or something. But you got to do something, because if you don't, then ultimately you're very, very vulnerable. and you end up like that poor guy who feels used because he paid all these bills and he doesn't own any piece of the house that he was paying bills into for the last 5 or 6 years. So it's not just for the women, it's also for men as well. So either you're going to have a grown-up relationship or you're not. That, to me, that's an aspect of another concept I talk about in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, called economic maturity. Economic maturity is connected, in my view, to emotional maturity, relationship maturity. An immature relationship is like the sixth grade. We girlfriend and boyfriend. They send you a little note. Will you be my girlfriend? Check yes or check no. Like, that's an immature relationship. Or that's my girlfriend. You got 50-something-year-old people talking about that's my girlfriend, that's my boyfriend. Why are you 55 years old? Why are you dating a boy? Seriously, are you 47? Why are you dating a girl? Like, you're supposed to be dating a girl. You ain't R. Kelly, man. Like, you're not supposed to be dating a girl. You're not supposed to have a girlfriend. You're supposed to have that's my woman. That's my lady. It's not your girlfriend. Come on. Like, that's weird. That's weird language, to be honest with you. I know everybody says it, but still. So to me, part of financial maturity, emotional maturity, relationship maturity means, okay, maybe we're not going to get married, but let's have a mature relationship. A mature relationship is something that can be documented, that's going to have to be recognized by the state, because I'm signing documents that are declaring this relationship to be legitimate. Do you understand? Give me a yes if this is making sense. Let me know if you get what I'm saying here. I'm not giving you relationship advice at all. I'm just giving you like what I might call financial lovemaking tips. Okay, financial lovemaking means that money and love are linked, whether we like it or not. We want to act like love and money ain't got nothing to do with each other, and that's the most ridiculous thing a person can say. Money is everywhere. Like I told you, when I started making more money, I became more handsome, and that's because there's a million years of biology that says that women are more attracted to men that have resources. So ultimately, when you're talking about relationship situations, not just business relationships, not just romantic relationships, this does translate to business relationships and any other relationship. Money is an important part of it. Money is so ubiquitous in our society that it literally is like the blood that flows through the veins of almost every human interaction that there is. You can't have society without money. So if you think that you can go through life and make all these critical decisions about choices and relationships and health and everything else and not factor money into the equation, that is about as financially unconscious as you can be, and you're setting yourself up for devastation. So don't do that. Just make a plan, nice and easy. Let me go through it again one more time before we get done. Cohabitation agreement to outline financial responsibilities and property rights. Joint tenancy, which basically says that property can be bought jointly. It doesn't have to just be one person or the others. Power of attorney. That means that if we have to make critical medical or financial decisions and you can't make them yourself, then I'm going to be able to make them for you. Beneficiary designations. That means that on your accounts, just put me down as a beneficiary so I can get into the account and get the rent money or the mortgage money or the bill money in case something happens to you, in case it happens tomorrow. And then the will. Hey, if I love you, I can put you in my will. That doesn't mean I exclude everyone else. Just means, I'm going to have something for you. If I'm gone, I'm going to be here in the afterlife, not just today. Okay. All right. So anyway, all right. So before we go, really quickly, I know a lot of you, when we were talking about doing the companion to Money in the Morning, I called it Money in a Minute, where I was going to basically just set something up where you can learn topics by having them just sort of sent to you via text message. I'm almost done with one of the first installments. I'll let you guys know the two popular topics that you guys mentioned that you wanted to learn about in detail were stock options and estate planning. So those are going to be the two things that we're going to put out. We'll put out stock options first, then we're going to do estate planning, where you can learn estate planning concepts, literally getting like a 90-second lesson sent to you via text every day, or you can just log in and watch them all at once if that's what you want to do. I'll keep you guys posted on that. Number two, tomorrow I'm doing that special event at noon Eastern, called How to Invest in the Stock Market. I really, really want, again, I don't require you to, there's no cost to be in this class. You only have to pay attention. But I really, really want you, everyone in here, this is the one favor I'm asking you, is I really want everyone in here to be a consistent investor in the stock market on some level. I don't care if it's 2 nickels a week. I want you participating in the stock market. So tomorrow I'm doing the training session, How to Invest in the Stock Market. I'll walk you through the process, everything else. So you can get in. There is a fee to join, and everything's yours for life. You can bring your whole family. or you can do a $1 trial in the Black Stock Market program. I'll send you a link to do the trial later on today. Make sure you're on the text list. The text list, to be on the text list, text the word morning to 87948. If you text morning to the number 87948, I will send that to you. Also, if you can't get on the text list, just send an email to support@theblackbusinessschool.com. I know some of you are international, and so if you email support@theblackbusinessschool.com, they can help you. And then last but not least, the ladies of Fly Nubian Money are going to, Dr. Alicia, Dr. Lene, etc., are going to be live at 1 p.m. today, and they're live every single day. And they tend to cover topics that relate to the financial side of Black life. Sometimes it's love and money, sometimes it's politics and money, whatever. But the topics are really interesting, and so if you'd like to join in and participate in that discussion, you can get on that text list. Just text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. Text Queens to 87948, and that's because the platform's called Fly Nubian Queen, and Fly Nubian Money is a segment of Fly Nubian Queen. All right, guys. So have a great day. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and I hope you have a great day. And I love you. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.